In Lynne Ramsay's 2017 neo-noir psychological crime thriller, You Were Never Really Here, we follow the story of Joe, a deeply traumatized veteran and ex-FBI agent who struggles with PTSD and finding any meaning in his life. Now working as a hired mercenary, Joe gets assigned a job that takes a turn for the worse as he finds himself dealing with human trafficking and corrupt officials in New York City. For all things that make you feel sad, bad, and just generally not rad, this is Existential Show. So, this film, I'm a big fan of. That's why I chose it. But it was based on a novella by author Jonathan Ames, who, from what I know him from, usually writes comedy, which is very weird to see.
I'm not familiar with him.
He's in an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, okay.
He plays Larry David's business manager. But he also created the HBO series Bored to Death with Jason Schwartzman, Ted Danson, and Zach Galifianakis.
I haven't seen that.
It's really, really funny. His 3 novels before this were all comedy novels. People say they are laugh out loud funny. And then he came out with this novella, and it was just complete 360 or 180, whatever it is. But I do want to throw out there
360 is a fool.
I know, that's what I said 180.
He would just be making a comedy again.
Yeah. I do want to throw out there for everybody listening, this film does have a lot of themes around death and suicide. So if that's not your thing and you have trouble hearing about it, watching it, definitely don't watch it. And if you don't want to listen to us talk about it, then now might be the time to shut this off. But Joe himself as a character is really obsessed with the thought of himself dying. The title actually comes from a line in the book. It's during a point when he was about to try to kill himself. He hears a voice say, "It's all right, you can go. You were never really here." And I want to touch on that as we talk about this, because there's a few different scenes that Lynne Ramsay had made that kind of really highlight that. First off, this film, the editing in it's phenomenal.
I'm going to disagree.
You disagree with that?
I don't like this film.
Really?
No.
I thought I love it.
Yeah, I have a lot of issues with it that I'm fine with digging into. But I think it kind of starts with this is basically just the Joker, which is basically just Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
It kind of all is an amalgamation, and I just looked it up that this came out in 2018 and Joker came out in 2019. So
really?
There's 0% chance that one didn't influence the other. One of the initial issues I kind of had was it just feels like something we've kind of... Oh, and I guess at that point, Joker didn't come out yet, but it feels too similar to a lot of that type of movie, like Taxi Driver influenced kind of movie.
It definitely gets compared to Taxi Driver by critics at times.
Yeah, and I guess specifically with the editing, the thing that I have, it's a lot of really drawn out shots. It lingers with a lot of the shots to kind of a point that I don't really understand. I don't know if it's trying to establish the world itself or establish more emotional aspects of the monotony of his life or whatever, but I don't know. Some of it I think is, which I think is a little more a pet peeve, is there's a lot of product placement shots. So it's did they just leave an extra 10 seconds in this shot so they could get, some money from Fanta and Welch's and M&M, not the rapper.
Yeah.
But I mean, it looks good, but I don't, the editing itself, I'm not.
I always forget product placement's a thing, and I just don't think anything of it whenever I see it, and unless it's all over the place in a film where it's oh, you can definitely tell he sponsored it.
Well, so at 28 minutes in, I got to the point where I was all right, I'm going to start writing this down, which was the bad timing to do that because that's when they stopped going into like convenience stores. But they open and going to a convenience store, so there's Oreos, Chips Ahoy, like all of the like Nabisco products, like front and center. T-Mobile and iPhones are really present. Obviously, I just said like Fonto, Welch's, M&M, again, not the rapper, are all prominently displayed at some point. So I was just like, yeah, Amazon got product placement money.
I wonder if for more independent films, if that's a bigger thing due to needing money to.
I guess it would be like having to play that game where it's like if you're trying to give money to movies to show your product, you want them to be effective ads.
Yeah.
So it's like give it to a higher budget movie like Marvel as opposed to a movie no one might see. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, that's fine. I think the editing is really good whenever you look at like how it kind of cuts between like flashbacks that he has a lot.
See, I didn't like that either.
No.
And maybe this because we have such maybe differing opinions on this, we can just talk about like the effectiveness of it.
Yeah.
But like the flashback scenes, and maybe it works better as a novella. The flashback scenes, there's like a handful. There's the desert ones, and then there's the childhood ones. And the desert ones don't even feel like they need to be there. Because they don't really, the only purpose they would seem to serve is to establish that he has like a soft spot for like children or people in need, but nothing is built upon that.
I think the part it really kind of, I think it, to me, it kind of, the one specific scene really showed like, I think the reason that he's in the line of work he is now, where he is trying to save girls from human traffic rings, is the scene where he hands a girl a candy bar through like a fence, and then another kid ends up shooting her to take her candy bar off of her. So I feel like he feels that he caused the death of a girl, and like that to me. So to me, it was like a very important aspect of his life that where he's like, no, I need to do something now. I caused somebody's death. I'm going to make sure that I save people from that. Things like that.
Like I get that, and it like. It would make sense, but then also, I think because it reminded me of a scene in another movie that I can't remember, where, or even like I'm reading a book currently that has a very like similar scene, where, like off the top, like if you're in like the armed forces like that, they tell you like you can't interact with the general population in that regard, and like there are scenes in other war movies where people act similarly, like they give a candy bar to a kid. I think that there's some really famous war movie I can't think of right now. Is it like, it's not like Platoon.
It might be Saving Private Ryan, I think.
Maybe, where like it's the same thing. He gives the kid a candy bar, and like the kid dies because he gave him a candy bar. Or like the book I'm reading right now is called Stinger by Robert McCammon. And the one guy he was a veteran, and he befriended a dog, and the dog, like when they're getting ambushed, picks up a grenade and he has to shoot the dog, kind of thing. But that really isn't like nothing. It doesn't feel like something's done with it. Like we don't really understand. We understand his character a little more, but like we don't know how that impacted him beyond like that influenced his life's work at this moment. And I think like that kind of general plot, Joaquin Phoenix, ex-mercenary, now hired hitman, is hired to break up a human trafficking ring, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, even in the beginning, it seems like he just saved, he found another girl in the beginning, I believe, he comes back from a job.
Yeah, it's kind of I don't want to say ambiguous, but like he's in a hotel. He has all this stuff like laid out. He picks it up, and then
he burns the picture of the girl.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's so. Which I think it's not necessarily like a hit, as in like he's going to kill people. Like to me, it seems like they call it a hitman movie because he's taking on these jobs. But I don't think I think he's only killing people when necessary. I think he's more tracking down and finding people and saving them type
Mhm.
deal. I was gonna say, like, I knew that there was something that led me to believe that he saved a girl at the very beginning also.
Yeah, and there's a shot where like he's like walking out of the hotel and like a woman walks by,
When he throws the garbage away and
I believe. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, he's like covering up that he was there, which again is a theme to this. He's not supposed to be there. So he's cleaning up everything that shows that he could have been here within this hotel room. Burns the picture, burns all like whatever else evidence. The Bible also some reason throws it in there. Or was that just to smother the flame maybe?
Yeah. Yeah, cuz
Cut-
it's going out and then he puts it over
Yeah.
top of it. I think it was just to smother it. Cuz I thought the same thing. I was like, you picked the wrong time to put that book over that.
Yeah.
Like,
But
you should have done it when it was more lit.
because he also had a bag covering the smoke detector. It was probably just to smother it. Then he's in Cincinnati and he says he goes back to the airport to fly back to New York City. But then he meets up with his handler and gets money off of him. Like he just finished the job. So yeah, to me it seems like he only kind of kills people whenever they're in the way of him saving a person.
Which I have to say, I realized like halfway through that I missed him traveling after that because I got really upset. At 32 minutes in, they're doing like establishing shots of the city that they're in, and just real quick shot of a man in a Eagles jersey, and I was like, no one in Cincinnati is ever gonna wear an Eagles jersey. Get out of here. And then I took it like it made me. I googled like, where does this movie take place? And they were like New York, and I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. That's a little more forgivable because it's right there.
Yeah. After the hotel, he gets in the taxi, just says airport. And that's like the one travel. That's like the only instance
Well, it
of
says
it.
Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, they're in Cincinnati, I guess. But yeah, I blanked on that and I just got really upset. I was
But
like,
I think in the very beginning is one of the moments that I said I kind of really like what they do with the film to show like that you were never here thing also. Because while he's at the airport, he goes and gets a drink of water from the water fountain and it cuts to a shot of a girl like watching him. Then it cuts back and the water is still running, but he's not there. There's just this little like it's running for a little bit and then the water stops. And it's like, is it a faulty water tap or is it just like a play? Obviously it's a play on the idea of the title.
yeah, I mean, and there's other instances like even he's going to talk to like, I guess the big boss and someone's like trying to hold the door for him, but like he just kind of walks by and like he's going into areas, or even he walks out and like it's the emergency exit and it's like things that he really shouldn't be like doing, or like he's actively pulling himself out of like human interaction, things like that. But yeah, I don't know. Joaquin, his character is very like a blank slate. You get like little bits and pieces of who he's supposed to be and how you're supposed to feel about him, but he doesn't like, he barely talks. Like it's very strange that they're trying to really establish him as a very like sympathetic and like emotionally driven character. And that was one of the things I saw because I looked up a couple reviews because I was like, what do people like about this movie? And one of the reviews was like, he's such an empathetic, caring person. And I was like, how do you get that? Like the line of work, sure, but
The scenes with his mother also.
okay, sorry, go ahead because I have something to say about
I
that.
was gonna say the scenes with his mother are the only moments when he seems happy.
I disagree.
No, you think?
I think
so?
he wants to kill her.
I think there's parts of the scenes where like it seems like he's taking care of her like at this point, like she's old, she's going a little crazy, but like when they're like doing the alphabet thing and like singing the alphabet, like he's smiling and going along with her, even to the point like later he's singing it himself in the mirror. Like I do think that those are some of the moments where no matter what happened, you get all the flashbacks of his dad being abusive to him and his mother. It always seemed like that he still cares for his mother. She's kind of losing it. She like the scene where she's in the bathroom and he's talking to her, and then he goes in. There's just water all over the place, like everything's busted. Like, yeah, I think this stuff he's like, like I have to deal with this, but at the same time, it's like it's his mother that he has been through all these same traumatic experiences that he's been through, and it like probably I think it helps him cope with it as well. You know, people trauma bond, and they both have the exact same trauma from the same exact person.
Yeah, but I think she, whether he says it or not, I think he clearly sees her as some kind of burden on his life, given the amount of care that he has to give to her. And like, there's obviously not a caretaker. And even so, like, there's the scene, she like falls asleep and he's taking her to bed and she's like, oh, Psycho was on the TV today and I'm freaked out. And then in the next scene, he's talking to her through the bathroom door with a knife, just dropping it on the floor, and she says something to aggravate him, and he takes a knife and he starts imitating like Psycho, like he wants to, like, you know, a spoiler alert for Psycho, like he but it just, I don't know, maybe he feels some kind of obligation to care for her and like be around. And I think one of the things that is decently done is this it's like an idea of suffocation, where it opens with him like suffocating himself with a paper bag, and then there's another scene where he's essentially waterboarding himself with like towels.
So I think if you kind of look into the flashbacks there, it seems like that's something his dad used to do. I think his dad, what I've gathered from it, used to hit his mom with a ball peen hammer.
Mm-hmm.
And before he did that, in some of the scenes, it would show him with that towel over his face. Like he was like, I don't know if it was some way for him to gear up to being a monster. Because he kind of seems to do the same thing every now and then. Like before he goes into the, Manhattan brothel, he does that at like a gym.
Yeah.
He does the same exact thing that you see the flashbacks of his father doing. And whenever, at times in the flashbacks also, when it seemed like his father was abusing his mother, he would take himself into the closet and put a plastic bag over his head to try to drown it out. I don't know if that, in the beginning, that's what we first see, right? Is him kind of breathing in a plastic bag and before he rips it off. And I don't know if that's his way of kind of like, at that point, erasing the stuff that he did. Like a cleansing act. Yeah, like he does the thing to bring out the monster, and then something to wash it away.
Yeah, I don't know, because I think thematically it's very interesting, because like the idea, like general suffocation, like he is literally suffocating himself. There's the aspect of his mother being a suffocating presence on his everyday life. Even at one point, like he's later in the movie, he goes to a lake to dump a body.
That's like my favorite scene.
It is really well shot.
Yeah.
I'll give it that. That is I think that's one of the better, like, looking, well composed shots.
The whole water scene in general is one of my favorite scenes.
Mm. Yeah, it is really nice. But in like the same aspect, he puts rocks in his pockets to keep himself underwater and not being able to breathe, and he lets go of, spoiler alert if you want to watch the movie, skip I guess like 10 seconds ahead, he buries his mother in the water.
It's a water burial. Yeah,
so he's getting rid of her, the suffocating presence, while being, you know, literally deprived of oxygen, and he comes up, and that's when all the sound comes back on. It's just, I think thematically it's very interesting to see that play out in different aspects.
I do think what you said was true, where like he feels an obligation to his mother, kind of the only obligation. Like it was at that point his only meaning, and I do think he legitimately meant to kill himself with his mother there, and that's why he put the rock. He had rocks in the bag and then rocks in his pockets, because I think he was going to drown himself. A lot of the shots are made to make you feel claustrophobic, I feel like. In general, there's a lot of moments, even like a couple, I'll call it a fight scene, but like struggle scenes, whenever the corrupt police officer, he like gets into a scuffle with him, and you see it all kind of in the mirror, but it's like such a constrained spot where you see the struggle happening.
Yeah, you see it in the mirror, the above mirror in like a hotel room.
I think it was just a weird angle because it was a cracked mirror. So I think it like, because he pushes him into the wall. So I think it was just a weird, I don't think it was actually like up above. Okay. But yeah, it's just like a very small space that you see the struggle actually happening in. And I think that is to go like with what you said, like the suffocation, like even people who are claustrophobic don't like being underwater because you're surrounded entirely and encased. So like that whole scene kind of falls in that as well. I think going into, I wouldn't go as far to say like in the review or like he's such an empathetic character. I do see it in scenes with his mother, but then also, again, spoiler alert a little bit. I mean, we don't have to do things in order, but whenever he finds his mother dead, that he finds the people in his house, and he shoots the one guy and doesn't kill him, he specifically like asks him if his mother was scared whenever she died, and he tells him that she was sleeping. But then he lays on the floor next to him and like sings with him as he
dies.
Yeah. And like, I don't know if that's really like necessarily an empathetic thing to do, but it like he didn't just leave the guy to die alone.
The one guy. Yeah.
Yeah. The other guy died straight out.
Yeah. That just feels kind of, I don't know, like convoluted.
Yeah, because like, you still are killing the guy, but...
Well, even beyond... Yeah, and I'm going to also say this. I get he's like a trained mercenary super guy kind of thing, but like his ability to kill is, I will say, just stupid. For that scene, he walks down the stairs, he is looking straight, he turns right, fires 2 shots, and he kills 2 guys. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess kills one guy and injures the other.
Like he shoots once and then turns in a room and shoots.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay. And like no emotion on his face, like whatever, that's fine. But like, it's just so instantaneous. And then this is me just being particular. Do you know how many guys he kills with a hammer?
I think it's like 3.
It's at least 4.
Okay.
5 depending on... So he kills 4 security guards with a hammer. He kills like 2 non-innocent civilians with a hammer. Am I being led to believe that in a human trafficking organization that the security doesn't have guns?
No, so the guy at the bottom of the stairs, like that was like a sneak attack. Like the guy didn't know he's coming.
The other 3
yeah,
were facing him and getting beat with
that
a
one.
hammer.
I don't understand. One of the people he kills was, I think, in the process of because he pulls him out. That's a non-innocent civilian.
Yeah, non-innocent civilian. But he kills 4 bodyguards with a hammer, a close combat weapon. The one, I'm fine with the sneak attack. The other 3 make no sense. Like, I'm sorry, it just I can't make sense of that.
Maybe they weren't armed.
To
me, it's weird.
But like from a story to like that feels like I don't know, like a MacGuffin. Like it's just something to move the plot. Like he goes in and one of the things that I think is more interesting about the movie is, and I saw someone mention this in a review, is like it's almost like a dissection of action movies themselves, where it's not like a, I don't know, Tom Cruise, like he's not going in and there's not like jump cut action like sequences. Like he's just walking down the hall and he beats a man with a hammer.
Yeah.
Like it's very anticlimactic in that sense. And like, I guess if that's what it's going for, like there's not the scene where like he breaks the man's arm and like from the elbow and then he smacks him in the head with a hammer and there's gunshots ringing off. Like,
and I was gonna say that too, like the scene that you are talking about, we only see it from the point of like closed camera CCTV like cameras. There was the one guy I know was definitely like walking right at him whenever it happened, but I'm trying to recall now like if it was like a weird, like an off angle that maybe we didn't catch everything that happened.
Mm.
and it just cuts and it's like he's hitting him, but I'm having trouble remembering that right now.
Yeah, it's like if it is just not giving the audience that action scene,
Yeah.
I can forgive it a little more. But like watching it, I wasn't getting like mad, but I was like,
Why didn't they shoot him?
what are you talking about? He has nothing else. He has a ball peen hammer. Just, if you're running a criminal organization, like you're not just letting some guy walk around.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
But again, like he's ex-military, whatever, mercenary. I can give it some leeway, but
Yeah.
that was just like I was like, no. Writing like my notes. I just said security somehow doesn't have guns, and then 3 guys, 1 hammer, and then I crossed out 3 and I said 4 guys, 1 hammer. Like it was just, I don't know. It is what it is.
It's a fair gripe to have. I will say, you mentioned it earlier, the soundtrack to this, I think the music engineering was really, really
Do you
good.
know who wrote it?
Johnny Greenwood.
Yeah, throwback to the first episode.
Oh yeah. Was he was I forgot that he did that also. There Will Be Blood.
There Will Be Blood.
But yeah, the guitarist and keyboardist for Radiohead. The character, there's another main character of a different film that I feel I could draw a lot of parallels to in this.
Is it Travis Bickle?
Nope.
Is it the Joker?
Nope.
Okay.
It is the driver from Drive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a lot of parallels there too, where just kind of like a silent protagonist, doesn't speak a lot, but again is viewed as this empathetic like hero, because it does have a similar vibe like this and Drive. The only difference being that I feel like Drive is a lot more vibrant, where this is a lot darker and grittier.
Yeah, because that's Refn.
Yeah.
He's stylistic. He's very stylistic.
There's a lot of colors that he can actually make out because he's colorblind.
That's okay. Is that like interesting? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Refn's colorblind, so he picks a lot of colors that stand out to him that he can tell a difference with.
I like that. That's funny.
Yeah. No, this has a lot more darker tones to it than that movie, but again, I draw parallels to it a little bit because of the protagonist of the film.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like an archetypal anti-hero where the silent but deadly
SBD.
Yeah. Where they're not necessarily characters that you're supposed to root for, and they're like doing net positive things, but they're doing them in a way that
isn't great.
Yeah, like you can forgive it.
You can forgive it, yeah,
but it's
if they were doing it to people that weren't bad, you would think they were monsters.
Yeah, but they're not. And then in the same sense, they like find something to latch onto. Like in Drive, he kind of latches onto the family.
Yeah,
and in this, he really latches onto. The plot ends up being he is hired by a governor because the governor's daughter was kidnapped by this human trafficking organization.
Yeah.
So he's hired to find the daughter, and he really connects to the daughter, which is like an interesting thing where the idea of him, I don't want to say like coming to terms with, but like working through his childhood trauma while trying to like save a child who is in a horrible situation. I think that's interesting. Like that was decently done, but again, I think the problem is like if I don't, and maybe it's just that this movie should have been longer because it's an hour and a half long.
Yeah,
it's pretty concise, but like
there's not really much fat in it. Like you were talking about some longer shots that you think didn't need to be that long, but at the same, like they don't extend. So like there's not a scene that's not there for a reason, in my opinion. Like even the flashbacks, you're like, you didn't think it built to the character. I found something in him that I thought I found something in him.
I think it's kind of like a misappropriated funds kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where I'm not saying like they were literally misappropriating funds on the set, but like a lot of the establishing like city shots, things like that, were just little things that didn't add to the story itself, kind of were just like establishing or whatever. Maybe they could have used that time to establish his character a little more, because the way that you make that story effective is to understand his character and connect to his character more. Like that's how you get invested in someone. And they do they show his memory of watching his dad abuse his mom, but like, what do we know about him outside of that, and that he was in the military? We don't know anything. We barely hear him talk.
Yeah, military and FBI, because I know he's wearing an FBI jacket when he discovers the like truckload of bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, it's like flashback traumatic moments that you get that build his character a little bit. Not necessarily the like character interaction.
Mm.
Aside from it's establishing him now as a person, because like when he does go back to the middleman between him and his handler at the start, he talks about how his son saw him entering his private home. And he said, this has to end now. We can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
So then he goes and meets his handler face to face again. And he says like, hey, we're done with Angel. And that's another thing too, that like does kind of lead me to believe that he cares about his mom, because if people know where he is and he lives with his mom, then they know how to get to her.
Yeah.
And that was the big part. That was why it was like such a secretive thing, is like people can't know where he lives because he's taking care of an old woman.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't want them to use her against him.
But then again, in the same sense, like, is that him protecting her, or is that him understanding that she's a liability?
It could be both.
It could be. It's interpretation, like,
she's only a liability if he cares about her. If he didn't.
But okay, bear with me for a sec. So like, he's in this business, he's making his money, and then all of a sudden somebody's like, listen here, Joker.
Joker Phoenix.
We got, also, side note, you know who his mom really reminded me of?
Yeah.
The therapist in Good Time.
Yeah.
They look like exactly the same. It's very funny.
I wonder, was it her?
The therapist is a man.
That's right. It's been a while since I've seen Good Time.
As soon as she came on the screen, I was like, that's the therapist.
It's him.
Yeah. But like, so he's making his money, he's doing his thing, especially once he gets into the world of like trying to protect the governor or save the governor's daughter. They're like, listen here, Joker, we have your mom, back off or we will kill her. Like,
yeah.
Then it kind of interferes with everything. So like, again, it's one of those things, different, we just kind of have different feelings on the movie. Like, I'm not going to pretend like my non-enjoyment of the movie isn't kind of skewing me towards that direction, but like, it could be both.
Yeah, it could be
depending
both.
on how you view it. It could be both. Yeah. Which also, I got to get this off my chest. The governor he is hired by is he's about to be going through election season.
I think the father of the girl was a senator. The governor was the other guy that.
Yeah, Governor Williams.
Yeah.
So this
Senator Votto was the girl's father.
So he would have been the incumbent
for
the upcoming election. Riddle me this, Batman.
I don't know a lot about politics. So.
How is a senator's daughter kidnapped and no one notices? Or no one talks about it?
I think they talked about it briefly a little bit whenever his handler's talking to him, because he said that her mother committed suicide and then she ran away from home a couple times. Mm. So I think she's known for running away from home. And then it turned out that this time he got a text message saying with an address. So
all right, never mind. I'm fine with that then. That was the one thing, and I remember that scene. Yeah. So like, it was floating around in the gray matter, but yeah, later in the movie, I was like,
wait a sec.
Like, how the hell does nobody know about this?
Yeah. I think also you generally what you learn about the senator also, it was probably meant to be kept hush hush. Because,
Oh, yeah.
but what it turns out as, so Joe doesn't really get connected with Nina, which is the name of the daughter, until kind of like second time she gets taken. Like the first time she gets taken, like he's being nice, being cordial. He said, "Hey, I'm like to go through what happened." Whenever he kills the four, maybe potentially armed security guards with a hammer, he saves Nina. He gets her out of the brothel. He takes her to a hotel, and at first they're just kind of like sitting in the car, and
He offers her the Welch's soda
yeah,
and the Fanta.
yeah, and water, and she she gives him a big hug, and then she starts kind of like saying, "I mean," he's like, "No, no, no, like you don't. That's nothing you ever have to do." So he gets her to the hotel, and he says, "Don't worry, your dad's gonna come get you soon." And she doesn't seem thrilled about it. He lays down in the bed. He has the news on, and the news story is that her father, the Senator Votto, jumped from the 22nd floor of a building and killed himself. I think he's thrown. I don't think it explicitly ever states it.
No, but it's something you can pick up on. Is he sends Joe to go break this thing up. So, and then it's followed by, to kind of really reinforce that, it's followed by the handler's dead, the angel's dead, his mom's dead.
Yeah.
So you can,
Angel's son's dead.
yeah.
And on top of that too, immediately after that is whenever Joe gets attacked by two corrupt police officers.
Mm-hmm.
Because he hears a knock at the door, opens it. It's the hotel clerk, but he immediately gets shot in the back of the head, which Joe says he got shot in the face. His face is like swollen, but
because he pulled out his tooth.
Yeah, but
he
I
like
don't,
rips out his tooth for some reason.
You never really. I think in the fight it probably got knocked loose or like damaged, so he pulled it out. But like you don't really see a bullet wound. You do see blood like on his chest a couple times,
and there's like you kind of see it more towards the end, but there's like a circle of blood, like it's just a dark spot on his cheek.
Okay.
But again, like if you get grazed by a bullet, it's gonna create more of a line.
Yeah,
like, it's not like he was shot through the face.
Yeah, so it was just a weird, like I kept looking for a bullet hole, and he said that. I was like, where did he get shot in the face? But
when he ripped out his tooth, I was sitting there. I was like,
it's a rough scene.
Yeah, I don't like teeth related things, but I was like, what is he doing? And then he pulls it out, and there's like he's just looking at it, and it looks like he puts it in his pocket. And in my brain, I was like,
you gotta put that in milk.
No, I was like, oh, there's a cyanide capsule in there or something. I was like, he really is cool, mercenary guy. But no.
What you end up learning as he follows the trail to find his mother dead, and he talks to the agent, is that Senator Votto also utilized the sex trafficking ring.
Mm-hmm.
So, which then leads me to believe, okay, that's why the wife killed herself. He may have very well jumped out of that window out of guilt and like remorse at that point. Like he hated himself. His daughter is taken into this thing because of him. And so, but it also leads you, like, that's left up in the air. It could have been two different things. But I think he was thrown based off of the other trail of bodies. But he learns from one of the people sent there to kill him and his mother that Nina is the governor's favorite girl.
Yeah.
So, the scene where we talk about the water burial we talked about it's his mom. And that's where I think everything like starts to click for him, because as he releases his mom's body and is letting himself sink, he sees Nina sinking. And then that's when he pulls the rocks out and swims to the surface, and you see a scene of her like swimming too, where he realizes if he dies, she dies.
Yeah, that's kind of reinforced in the following scenes where he starts to Like he trails the governor to his mansion, and more dead security guards, hammer to the face, hammer smashed face. And he goes into a room and she's not there, and he kind of like starts to break down. And I mean, what you get out of that is like he believes that he was too late and the worst happened. So like the only time we really see him show like profound emotion is when he believes like he let her down, and especially when this is connected to like his own childhood trauma, like he's not able to save himself through being able to save her. Like he's witnessing someone be put through something, worse than what he went through, and he wasn't able to do anything about it. So he kind of starts to break down. And that's where you really start to see his connection to her.
Yeah. And it's very like, I'm kind of curious at that point too, or I felt I picked up the same thing. It's like, yeah, he let her, but at the same time, what he finds in that room is the governor with his throat slashed.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I'm also like thinking like, what does he think happened to her at that point? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess it could be like, because everyone connected with it to some degree has shown up dead. So
yeah.
Maybe it's just like whoever is behind the man on the throne is like pulling some strings, and then it's like, oh, he got, and now like we can assume that
she got taken
or something crazy. Yeah.
But what we end up finding is, as he's kind of on his way out, he starts hearing a noise, and he walks into the dining room, and Nina's there just eating dinner
with bloody hands,
with extremely bloody hands, and on the table is a bloody straight razor. So she got her due revenge.
Yeah. And then to go along with the title and the theme of like all these little things where he's either not seen by others, or like you have to question, are the actions that you're seeing actually occurring before you as you see them, where they're in a diner and she asked him like, where are we going? And he's just like, we can go anywhere. Like we're free now, essentially. She goes away and he's sitting there, and he just all of a sudden just pulls out a gun and shoots himself.
She goes to the restroom.
Yeah. And he's like, I think like his hands in his face, and then he pulls him away, and then he pulls a gun and shoots himself through the bottom of his jaw, and nobody reacts. Even
the waitress comes and she goes, here's your bill, and just like
and she's covered in blood.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where like, as that scene unfolded, like he pulled out the gun, I was like, what the hell? And then he shoots himself, and I was like, all right, this is cool. And then no one reacts. So I'm like, oh, this isn't real. I was like, that's not how anyone would react.
No, not at all.
No one said anything. But it was an interesting thing. And like, I thought that was supposed to be like some kind of internal, like, I guess external, like visualization of like how he was feeling internally. But then like he's, we could assume he's feeling good.
Yeah.
But then, also there's the potential for kind of like you were talking about with like the bags and the catharsis, like that's him getting rid of his previous self. That's him working through exercising the demons. And like,
I think it was also like, sorry to interrupt, but like she gets up and walks away, right? And I think it was him like imagining if she doesn't come back.
Oh, okay.
Like,
or if she was never really there.
Or if she was never, yeah. Yeah, that's a good point to it also. But in going into a little bit of the discussion of claustrophobia too, when he's sitting there by himself, every single conversation that's happening in that diner starts getting louder and louder and louder. And there's just this cacophony of just people talking, and then that's whenever he just like pulls it out and does it. So I think like the just overwhelmingness of like just mundane conversation that he's hearing is literally suffocating him there to the point where he like can't handle it anymore.
Yeah, which I guess that could play into something similar to, because I think it's very common for people who have trauma, especially related to like serving in armed forces. Like that's a big thing, is how do you reintegrate into like a normal society after seeing a lot of those things. And like for him, he served his time. He then potentially worked for the FBI, and now he's exposed to seedy underground stuff. Like how do you integrate with normal, like a diner conversation, and like how suffocating that must be, or how claustrophobic that must be.
Even like going into, now I'm thinking about it, we're talking about like the part with the FBI again, but I think that also is what leads him to do this work against human trafficking, because that, again, he found all the corpses locked in a storage container, which unfortunately is a realistic thing that happens. People die whenever the storage containers don't get opened in time. But even like, but talking about reintegrating in the society, he couldn't even stop to take pictures of smiling people on the street at one point. They're like, hey, can you take this picture for us? And they're all like smiling, and like just their mouth like agape and open was reminding him of the dead bodies' mouths being like that. Whenever that's when you get that flashback of the storage container. But back to the diner, after he does imagine himself killing himself, Nina comes and touches his hand and says, "It's okay, Joe," which is kind of a flashback to the first time he rescued her. Because when she's like just sitting in the car, he puts his hand on hers and says, "Hey, Nina, it's okay. Like everything's going to be all right." And to me, it kind of is a double back to, he saved this girl, but now she has nowhere to go. She doesn't have a family. And it seems like they are going to kind of be companions, like you kind of gain from it, where now he has a meaning to live. If he didn't have his mom and didn't have somebody to take care of, I don't think he would keep going.
Yeah.
And that, so in turn, him saving her from a traumatic experience, like you said earlier, does end up saving him as well. And that's kind of how the film ends, as she says it's okay, and then just says, "It's a beautiful day out." And he says, "It is a beautiful day." And it cuts at that point.
Yeah.
I think this film did a good job at capturing somebody with PTSD and like just kind of the flashback scenarios of like reliving trauma, I think is kind of true. Or not true. I know that that's true, but I feel like I feel like they captured it pretty well.
Yeah, I think it's, yeah, I'll give it that. I think it did pretty well at like relaying various kinds of traumas and like how it impacts people day to day. The thing that I don't know why I can't think of it, but I was watching something recently, but it was, and I'm conflating it in my head now with this movie, because it was some discussion or like something about like a mom being abused because she brought home hamburger meat for dinner one day. And I don't know, like now that I'm just conflating it with this, and like I'm putting it onto that, but I cannot remember what that movie is or what that thing I watched was.
I'm trying to think of what it is, because
the only things, and it's really going to bother me, but I don't know. I just, as we're talking about it, I keep thinking like, that's not this movie.
That's not this movie. It never really shows you any of the reasons why the father was abusive, aside from consistently telling his son to stop slouching because only pussies and girls slouch.
Yeah, but sorry, I feel like I needed to say that because I needed to. That was kind of like the alley-oop for like, do you know what I'm talking about? But
no, I was waiting for it because I was like, maybe I'll know what it is if he talks about it.
And like I'm trying to Google it, but like nothing's really coming up in my search, so I'm just gonna be left to feel like I'm making that up for some reason. But
so you said you didn't like this. On your grading system, your scale system, what do you put it at?
Half a star.
Only half
a star
out of 5.
Correct. That's as low as it goes.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't think it was going to be that bad for you.
For
me, it's a 4. I like all the shots and the editing, and
Okay, so I don't want to harp on it because it's one of those things. It's
Yeah.
it's how I feel.
No, that's right.
But one of the things I thought about recently, so I read a book by Haruki Murakami called A Wild Sheep Chase, and it led me to this idea where the general plot is whatever. Like, it's a guy who's given an impossible task, essentially. He has to find one specific sheep in all of Japan, or, his life is ruined. It's an interesting enough concept to draw you in. And very similarly, and it led me to this idea where it's like, and this is meant to be an inflammatory statement, but like, if you were discussing Moby Dick with someone and they said, yeah, it's just about a whale, you would be like, well, no, it's not. But I think
it's about obsession and
it's about a lot of things.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be like dissected within something like Moby Dick. But what facilitates that need to actually dig into it is investment in the story itself. If you read Moby Dick and you're not drawn into it, it is just a book about a whale. In the same sense, where like, I don't really feel like I was able to grasp onto anything concerning Joe's character, and like the things that I value the most in like narratives are character development and character like investment. I don't really feel like I was able to get something from that. So like, it ends up being kind of like a less, I don't want to say less interesting, but a less like visually grabbing action movie. So it just felt kind of ineffective for me. And it's shot well. The performances are fine. I don't think this is one of Joaquin's better performances because he just barely talks.
yeah.
It just ends up not really being for me. That's how
That's a fair assessment. I mean, I'm just surprised that it was that low on your scale. Like, I know looking into it, but like, I saw this probably closer to when it came out originally, and I remember really liking it.
It's generally well liked.
And that's the other thing I was gonna say too. Like, Rotten Tomatoes is like a 89 or 90%. Like,
Yeah.
it's generally a very, very well liked movie, and it's won a couple different awards at different.
It's okay to be wrong. No, and I mean, like, yeah, I don't know. I do. It's one of those things where it's like, I know what I like in a movie, and like, it's very difficult for me to kind of I don't know.
It's the beautiful thing. It's where you have your opinion, I have mine, and you can't. Neither of them are really wrong. It's just what you like or what you don't like, and
yeah, it just doesn't really check the boxes I look for.
Even though you didn't like it, you still had a good amount to talk about it and could see the.
Yeah, I can, and that's the thing is like, I can see the value in it, especially like looking at how other people what people took away from it. It lends to seeing the vision. It's just, do I believe in that? Like, my personal experience is different. So like, I'm not going to see that. And that's fine. Like, there's the movies I like that I love. I can't imagine people are going to feel the same way about them as I do, even though they're objectively the greatest movies of all time. But, but yeah, it like I said, it's just not for me.
No, it's fine. I was just curious because I know you had your scale, and like I said, if I'm using your scale, this is easily is a 4 to 4.5 for me. But
yeah, which, listen, guys, if you've made it this far, this is my piece of advice. If you're gonna not like something, at least have a good reason for it.
No, 100%. And
think about why you don't like it.
And like that's one thing that I'll always dislike is anytime somebody's like, I don't like that, and then you're like, why? They're like, it's so stupid. Like, don't.
Yeah, think about it. Be critical.
Yeah.
Don't let yourself fall into it. Like, it's okay to not like something, or it's okay to like something. Just think about what made it effective to you.
That being said, if you have extremely personal petty reasons to dislike things, have them too.
Yeah. Exactly. I I immediately was against this movie because I was like, this is the Joker.
I wasn't saying that.
Well, no, I mean,
Yeah.
I'll bite the bullet on that one. But
But I don't have much else to say about this. I am interested in seeing other of Lynne Ramsay's work because everything that I've read after watching this is like people talk about her being like one of the best filmmakers currently.
oh, she did. We need to talk about Kevin.
Yeah,
Polaris.
she maybe I thought Solaris, not Polaris. Sorry.
Polaris. The Lovely Bones.
Oh, I saw Lovely Bones.
There
That's
you
a
go.
good one.
You knew. She
Yeah,
didn't even.
I didn't. I just didn't know she was the director for it.
I'll say this. I tried to read We Need to Talk About Kevin, and I hated it.
Really?
But I think the movie probably, it's just very, the way it's written is very intentional for you to not like the main character, who would be played by Tilda Swinton, but it probably comes off better in the movie. So maybe that'd be interesting to see.
Yeah.
But
Tilda
alright.
Swinton's very good at making you not like her.
I like Tilda Swinton.
I know. I think she's a great actress, and I do like her as an actress. But I think that she has
Yeah, her and Burn After Reading,
yeah.
or
There's two actresses that I feel like do a very good job at playing unlikable characters, and it's her and Toni Collette.
yeah, I saw her. We went and saw Mickey 17.
Is that any good?
Yeah, I actually really liked
Okay.
it. Yeah, that 4 stars.
4 stars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been seeing trailers for it, and I was like, "Ooh, Robert Pattinson." And then
Well, Toni Collette's in it too.
yeah,
And
and it was
Ruffalo,
who's the director?
the guy who did Parasite.
Yeah,
But
nice.
yeah, all right.
All right. On that note,
It's been real. It's been fun.
yep. Deuces.